Hello, David. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Hi. So I'm seeing your profile. Like you have been in a lot of fighters, and you're former MMA world champion. So nice to meet you. So tell me a bit about yourself for the viewers, David.
Well, not a former world champion. I fought on the Amis. I won a title in my last bout in 2021. I'm old and useless like Madonna's right tit, but I retired and actually went into media. So I've been doing color commentating since just about like 2017. So I've been also doing backstage interviews and also doing pretty much the plant for like UFC, MVP, Netflix, all that good stuff. And I also have an upcoming video game coming up called MMA 2027, which is going to be released on all platforms the last week in November. So 3 days before Thanksgiving, new video game, and EA Sports is they're going to be introduced to their new daddy. So pretty excited about it.
Wow, that's awesome. It's called MMA 27. So basically, it's like a non-UFC video game. Is it going to have all the fighters from UFC, or like you fight, you're going to have story mode, or how's the game like?
Oh, okay. So I'll paint the picture for you. So you know how EA Sports says if it's in the game, it's in the game. I don't
Yeah.
remember any fight I've ever seen in my entire life, and I wish there were stamina bars and life bars and like all these health meters and everything like that. No meters, nothing like that. Fully touchscreen, full creativity, both standing up and on the ground. So essentially, it is the anti EA Sports. And EA Sports, when they release UFC games, you know how they come out with like one edition, another edition, like and it's pretty much like an upgrade of the same game, like year after year. It's complete utter bullshit. We have built a engine from scratch where I know why they overcompensate, because when they know little or they know dick about the topic that they're covering, of course they're gonna fucking throw all the bells and whistles and you have the glow effect and free flow or whatever bullshit they're coming up with. None of that is going to be arcade gameplay, and anyone's going to be able to pick up and play. Anyone's going to be able to pick up and shoot a double A takedown just by swiping 2 fingers down. Anyone's going to be able to grapple with swiping 2 fingers up. They're going to be able to throw punches and have creativity and put combinations together just by using their fingers. And they're going to be able to throw kicks. They're going to be able to do spins, flying knees. On the ground, they're going to be able to grab limbs, drag limbs, set up submissions. It's going to be easy for anyone to pick up, easy for anyone to play. And I'm not looking for the because UFC it's very complex, the game. Again, overcompensating. Not a lot of people can pick it up and play. I want grandma to be able to pick up and play and say, "Hey, PS MMA, I want to kick your ass in MMA 2020. Come here and be able to like swipe and actually punch you in the face in the game." That's the target audience. Anyone that can that likes video games, that likes having fun, and I'm really excited by it. Over 500 fighters in the game. No UFC people, because I don't want to get sued, and touching anywhere near a UFC contract is a no-go. But a lot of familiar names, and especially I noticed that you're Palestinian. A lot of guys, in the Middle East, a lot of famous fighters and coming out of the Middle East are going to be in the video game, and I'm excited.
So I guess no Bilal Muhammad, because that's UFC. So I guess does this apply for active UFC fighters or non-active UFC fighters?
So if they are under contract, I can't even look in their direction. So unfortunately, if they are signed to the UFC, that those contracts with intellectual property and their IP belongs directly with the UFC, and they of course lease it out to EA Sports. So I can't even touch them with a 20-foot pole. But retired UFC fighters, retired UFC legends, if you will, and recent retired UFC legends, more than happy. It's a fair game. So that's the benefit. So you're going to see a lot of legends in the game, a lot of familiar faces, and also you're going to be seeing regional fighters, upcoming amateur fighters. You're going to be seeing the whole plethora, because I want the entire this is my love letter. This is our love letter to the MMA community. So it's really, really exciting. A lot of legends, a lot of new faces, old faces, and some great gameplay and multiplayer mode, create character mode, where you're able to scan your face, story mode, multiplayer mode, title matches and exhibitions, so you can have your own fantasy league. It's exciting stuff. We've been working on this game for about a year, and it's good to see the everything come together.
Oh wow, so that's pretty cool. So for which console will be available? And you're talking about legends like Randy Couture, the Chuck Liddells, Vitor Belfort, Anderson
You'll
Silva,
see.
Theodore Martinez. Oh,
You'll see.
surprise.
You'll see. The official trailer will be released on August 31st, and also the game reveal. So I'm going to be revealing the entire gameplay, all the mechanics, everything on August 31st on YouTube, Rumble, and on Millions.co. So everyone's going to be able to check out the gameplay, see it for themselves, and it's only $29.99. For the full game. You're not going to have to buy add-ons and expansions and packs and all that bullshit. I grew up in the age of like Super Nintendo and N64. When you buy a video game and you spend your hard-earned money, you get the entire game. That's how we grew up. And it's the same way with this game. And just because, and an extra caveat, if you buy MMA 2027, 2028 is free, 2029 is free. So, of course, like, every single edition is considered I don't like Madden where it's the same game over and over and over again every single year. So all the next two editions are free if you buy MMA 2027. So,
So you're saying here also it's easier to play this kind of games. So, because I don't want to play the UFC, especially UFC 3, the submission gameplay is so difficult. Especially like you have to do spinning and you have to get out of these quadrants. Is it like that?
No, not at all. On the ground, you control both arms with both of your fingers. So the phone is like this. So let's just use for mobile gameplay, for example. So break it up in like 4 squares. The top part is the left arm and the right arm. The bottom is the left leg and the right leg. So you're able to control the arms and grab arms and lift. Like, let's just say if you're on the ground, you're able to drag the arm down of the person that's on top if you're on full guard, and then lift your legs up and pinch with your fingers, pinch like this, and you'll be able to set up a triangle choke and just pull down on the head. So we simplified, and we have all the guardrails in place and everything like that, but we simplified the ground game to the T. So anyone's going to be able to pick up and play. And there is some forgiveness and there is some there is a learning curve to it, but at the same time it's very, very simple in order to pick up and play. And if you don't know submissions, just ground and pound the shit out of somebody. Mark out of it, like down and just completely ground and pound. So or stand back.
Thing, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Stand back up, and you can do soccer kicks from standing up. So pride rules are in effect for this game.
Pride never dies, they say. Pride never
dies, baby.
Wow. So by the way, talking about like UFC fighters, can you also include like PFL fighters in that game? Or is it just like, because if it's PFL contract or Ryzen or One, are you allowed to include those, or just UFC they don't allow you?
So surprisingly, like IPs are a lot less stringent in PFL contracts, Ryzen contracts, One FC reviewing their contracts, because a few of their guys, especially in PFL and One, they're very, very lenient. I think PFL are coming out with a video game, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
It looks pretty good.
Wow.
Yeah, it looks pretty good to me. Like, it's not gonna have dick on my game, no offense or anything, but like, it's they're very, very lenient about their intellectual property, their IP, and their. So, of course, I'm not going to use like the PFL logos or the UFC logos or any of that shit. I can't do that.
Copyright, right?
Yeah. So you can't do that. I mean, in the commercial, I'm going to be mocking the shit out of EA Sports. I mean, in the trailer, but like same thing with Coca-Cola and Pepsi. You're allowed to do it. So.
Yeah, 100%. That sounds like a pretty good idea. Just like show that you're the better product, especially like with your gameplay. It's like you're probably going to fix the uniqueness and complexity of EA Sports and the same mold. Looks like a pretty cool game. So other than creating video games, like you focus a lot on interviews as well with many different, and go to UFC events as well, or how does it?
Yeah, so no more UFC events, because ever since TKO took it over, it's not my cup of tea. I under the reign and the rule and other confines of TKO, I think TKO is surrounded by expert swimmers that never had the balls to take a dip in the pool. I think they are terrible. They're running pretty much a giant billboard. They think the brand is bigger than the athletes, and that's never been the way with combat sports, and they're going to find out really, really soon, especially after all the ready-made Zuffa athletes are long gone. Like Conor McGregor is pretty much the last remnants of an old old reign where the promoters believed that the talent were bigger than the promotion. But yeah, no more UFC events. MVP and Netflix, they have some big things in the works, and especially with MVP taking over PFL. So
Yeah.
big news ahead. I just got back from California in May, covering the Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano fight, and yeah, it was like I love what they're doing. They have some big things, especially as far as talent development, bringing in talent, and paying fighters their fair share, because the UFC is not paying people fucking dick.
I know that's exactly the difference here. Like one of the fighters in PFL, Vadim Nemkov, one of Fedor's students, he turned on the UFC because of this money deal. So like many people are doing this.
Yeah, and I think I don't like I love the UFC my entire life. I do not like TKO. I think UFC needs to be liberated of TKO. TKO needs to get out of the fucking fight business for good. They need to be eliminated, not from planet Earth, and not sent back to the hell because the devil needs new souls. But they need to go away, far, far away from combat sports. They're selling billboards. They're selling like advertisements. They're not. There's more commercials than there are fights on a broadcast. It's get rid of TKO. And I worked with them for 3 years, and I had my fill, and I was like, that's it. So, I think TKO needs to go away and go away fast.
So do you like? I guess with MVP taking over PFL, are you happy with that merger, or how do you feel with the merger? And I guess you're a PFL fan as well.
Yeah. I'm a PFL fan, but I think in the eyes of the casual viewer, I think people call MMA UFC. Like I train UFC.
Exactly.
So it's going to be a twofold concept of how MVP is going to beat UFC. So MVP absorbing PFL, they did it mostly just to build up a talent roster. Because once you have an established roster, you're off to a good start already. Now what you do, because the UFC, they broke all their relationships with TKO, broke all the relationships with like the LFA, with like Titan fights, with Ring of Combat, all their feeder promotions. So MVP going after the regional and the territory systems where they get young talent early, get them with big contracts, bring in the best talent in the world, and then slowly break the narrative of UFC, the best fighters fight for the UFC. Bullshit. That's only the narrative. You break the narrative, you bring in the best fighters in the world, and they have Francis Ngannou. You put all your money and all your chips on Francis Ngannou, which he has a win over the current UFC champion, Cyril. So you build up and you stack the deck from a marketing standpoint and a talent standpoint, and that's how you're going to be able to beat the UFC. But to answer your question, I love the merger, but mostly they did it to absorb the talent and to have a ready-made roster as opposed to using the PFL in order to beat the UFC.
I actually agree with this fully, especially I'm pretty happy merger because I went to PFL DC. I spoke to John Martin. Like, you guys have very good events, but the advertising is the weak point. And I think that with this merger, MVP will promote PFL's advertising because I think PFL last time has been very, very good. But what seems it's very good, but not many people actually know about it. Like, oh, did it happen? When did it happen? And I feel like with MVP's merger with PFL, it's gonna fix that. And by the way, speaking of the merger, is John Martin gonna be like a CEO? What's his role gonna be still?
I don't know what the hierarchy is going to be. I'm not really too sure, to be honest with you. I would assume he would be still running operations, like just for the time being. But I think it's Jake Paul, because Jake Paul always had a minority stake in PFL, and he bought, I think it was like maybe 10 or 15%. He had a minority stake, and now he's kind of expanding. But yeah, I think he's going to stay on as CEO, and I think he's going to run the MMA portion of events. I think that's how the hierarchy is going to go.
So he'll be CEO, and John Martin will be like operations thing, or
I think so. I'm not really too sure.
It's like Scott Coker, who just like thrown out the ocean with PFL about Bellator. It'll be something different, right? Because it was Scott Coker. He's just like thrown out.
See, this is the strategy, and this is how you beat the UFC. And it was perfect with Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano, because we knew that fight was not going to be, it was not going to be the greatest fight of all time. It was going to last. Ronda Rousey was going to get an armbar, and when I was doing the live stream and when I was doing the color commentating, I said, this is how it's going to end. It's going to end in the first 10 seconds, and Ronda Rousey's going to do
Mystic David.
Exactly. But Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano are two household names. Gina Carano was in Star Wars. Ronda Rousey is a household name. You have two marquee names to anchor the card, and then you stack the card with young talent and talent that hopefully people are going to follow. Give them the microphone, and hopefully 2, 3, 4, 500 people relate to one of these fighters, and they keep continuously watching. That's what the strategy should be. Instead of splitting hairs and going for the casual MMA viewer, which again, still neck and neck, UFC is with WNBA as far as viewership. The big events, of course, the UFC is blowing them away, but for like the fight nights and everything, WNBA is neck and neck. Like NFL is kicking their asses, NBA is kicking their asses, but how you beat the UFC is not go for just the casual MMA viewer. Go for everybody. Create events for everybody. And the Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano event, the reason why it's still the top live viewed MMA event of all time is because they had marquee names that everybody knows, not just casual MMA viewers. That's what the strategy should be. Have something for everybody. Have the big names, the marquee names at the top of the card, and then stack the deck with new up and coming talent and exciting talent. So it has something for everybody.
So you kind of want to combine nostalgia with current talent as well, right?
Correct. Yeah.
That's actually pretty good. Yeah.
That should.
And also, isn't it the reason why MVP has higher views as well is because of the fact that MVP was on Netflix, and many guys have Netflix as well. So they're just like, okay, sweet, it's on Netflix. You can watch that easily.
Yeah, but also TKO has WWE on Netflix, and WWE has a they have a large following, and even more of a following than the UFC. WWE's always been the flagship. Actually, back in 2004, Spike TV was hip to this, and that's why they put. I think it was a tough. The Ultimate Fighter was either before or after Raw. So they put it right after, and that's how they were able to retain viewership. And they would air advertisements during Raw. So WWE's always had a loyal fan base, but look how they're performing on Netflix. They're doing shit numbers right now. That gives you a good indication. And while people say, oh, wow, Paramount Plus, the only reason why Gina Carano and Ronda Rousey did so well and better than some UFC events is because Netflix has more of a viewership than Paramount. Well, why would they take that deal on Paramount if they knew that that's not where all the eyeballs are? They were doing it because they got the best money deal. They didn't care about how many viewers or the viewing experience of the fan. They cared about what deal was on the table. And, that's their fault. Especially the fact that, let's look at the fan base too. Most of the people that are on Paramount are registered Democrats, liberals. They're not the Donald Trump type supporters. So when people say, oh my God, I can't believe that Gina Carano and Ronda Rousey beat the White House event. Yeah, no shit, because you're on a network that's mostly liberal Democrats and people that watch South Park. Geniuses. They don't care. They care about money. They care about appeasing the shareholder. They do not care about MMA fans. And that is how that's how MVP is going to be able to beat a UFC. UFC, they're beholden to the stockholder and beholden to their bottom line, while MVP MMA, a private company, is going to be beholden to the MMA fan on a Netflix or on ESPN Plus.
That sounds like a very good idea. I'm much looking forward to the merger too, especially like PFL, big PFL guys, like finding MVP, even combining with Ryzen. Like I'm sick of the UFC monopoly. It's like people are just like kind of casuals, and they assume that if you're not in the UFC or PFL, program in your head, you're a bad fighter. So it's like I'm finally waiting. Like soccer has no monopolies, kickboxing has no monopolies. Why not MMA? So I think it's about time.
Yeah, it is definitely about time. And competition's good for the business. When you have just one brand completely dominating, and I don't want UFC to die. I want TKO to die and sent back down to hell where they belong, but I don't want the UFC to die. I just want more options. Back in the day, you had Bodog, you had you had Pride, you had UFC, Bodog, you had Smack Girl in Japan. You had all these a plethora of different options. right now there's limited options. You have the UFC, and because of the marketing, it says, oh, it's either the UFC or you fucking suck, just like you said. But I love watching regional promotions. I work for the ECF, where I'm the color commentator and I'm chief marketing officer. I love, and it's also all the pay-per-views are on millions.co, but I love watching mixed martial arts itself. I love watching fights. I love fights in Japan. I love fights in Korea. I love fights in Dubai, and I love fights in the Middle East. I love fights everywhere. I love to see the new up-and-coming talent that people aren't really paying attention to, which they really should. And that's why I've always been a fight fan. I haven't been just like a UFC fan. I grew up a Pride fan before anything. I watched the UFC, of course, back in '93, but I was mostly a big-time Pride fan because Yushi Sakuraba was my guy, and I just think the game would be a lot better off if there was more competition. There was more people having more options. That's for everybody, not just a casual MMA viewer.
Wow, you watched MMA during the golden years, especially like when there was competition. There was Pride, there was Strikeforce, and now it's all kind of faded ever since. I think the competition ended once UFC bought Pride, Strikeforce, and WEC, and just had this monopoly. And I feel like people are too brainwashed by it. So I feel like it's about time, especially now. They're kind of like not really treating fighters well. Especially Dana White, I feel like he's losing enthusiasm for the company. So it's like, wow.
Yeah, Dana White has been pushed to the side. And especially when I was getting in, he was pretty much getting kind of pushed to the side. And that's why Power Slap came out. That's why Zuffa came out, because he's getting pushed to the side, developing all these different properties, which he wanted to come out with Zuffa Boxing ever since 2017. But now he's reduced to a hype man. And now you have like this guy Hunter, who is a freaking lawyer for his father's firm, and like Dana White's lawyer, like thinking he can run an MMA promotion. Great. Let's see how that works out for you. Once again, it's ran by expert swimmers that never had the balls to take a dip in the pool. People watch fights to watch fighters. They don't watch, I'm just going to watch a UFC event and watch fucking player 1 versus player 2 and some random people. They love stories. They love people that are relatable, and they wanted to take stock in the fighters. The fighters will always be bigger than the promotion. I think the UFC is going to TKO is going to run into a lot of issues when they start realizing that they have no ready-made stars because they are busy building up the promotion as opposed to building up the fighters. It's always been fighters first. And they're going to realize that this business model and the good faith that has been built up from Dana White in the Zuffa era, that's going to run out. And I'm telling you, it's going to be a slippery slope down, especially when Scott Coker comes out with competition or when MVP comes out with competition. So, we'll see. It's about to get very, very interesting, and I'm excited for it.
What do you think about Scott Coker? Scott Coker, he's CEO of the promotion. There's Strikeforce and Bellator. Unfortunately, both of them went down. So what do you think about the third one will be? Will it be kind of another Bellator, another Strikeforce?
I haven't heard much. I love Scott Coker. I only met him. I only met him once in passing, and I just shook his hand and I was like, "Hey, Scott, how you doing?" And but he has such a passion for combat sports. He's always been on the right track, but I feel he's only fell short just by milli-inches of creating something incredible. And he's created, Strikeforce and Bellator. He's done incredible things. I just think he fell short and missed the mark just by milli-inches. But I think the best approach, the UFC always wants to be the Super Bowl of mixed martial arts. I think the best approach, why not be the Olympics of mixed martial arts? I actually talked to somebody about this. I'm if you got one company that wants to be the Super Bowl of combat sports, why not have one promotion that wants to be the Olympics and say, hey, come over to this promotion and represent Ryzen. Come over and represent MVP and have all the mixed matches, create something new. Do not copy the same UFC business model because you're always going to look small by comparison. Create something new. I think if Scott Coker really puts his brain to it and really puts on his thinking cap, because he already has the passion for it. He has more heart than most. So if he puts something innovative together and a concept that somebody can pick up right away, because the PFL, as much as I love Ray Stefo and the PFL people, I just think people didn't grasp onto the league concept and the tournament concept that they were coming out with. But if Scott Coker can come up with a property and come up with a concept that's different and unique and innovative and something that captures the imagination of everybody, like interpromotional battles and like the Olympics of combat sports, I think they'll be in good shape. But I hope that's, the whatever he comes out with, I just hope it's different.
Yeah, that's what he focuses on too. Like, he focuses a lot on making like those tournaments and meaningful fights. Whereas I actually like him too. I feel like many of the fighters like him too, especially like since Michael Chandler. There's been several years where I didn't see any fellow Bellator fighters join UFC until after he was gone, because I feel like he treated the fighters very well, like Amosov, Jackson, Patchy, Pitbull. They stayed with him for many, many years, and I don't think like under him, Bellator had a pretty low turnover to go to the UFC.
Yeah, people were very, very happy. And especially I remember like PFL 1 and I was covering that event from Madison Square Garden. People were very, very happy. I thought the promotion was off to a good start. Boss Rutan was on board. Randy Couture was doing the color commentating. I thought, they had a great team behind them. I think PFL just missed the mark just by milli-inches once again. Everyone was very, very happy, especially like excuse me, I'm so sorry.
No worries, you're all good.
Oh, so sorry. Whew. Sorry about that. Caught something in my throat. What was I saying? I'm so sorry about that.
Something that PFL lost the mark. That's where I.
Yeah. I once again race with the PFL management, with Bellator management, with all these managers, I think they start off strong and they start losing momentum. I think if they stick to the program and stick to a game plan, I think they're going to be able to beat the UFC and be able to compete with the UFC.
Yeah, and also I know we said with UFC, neither Canada don't really like TKO. Do you still watch the fights? For instance, here there's Islam Makhachev versus Ian Gary this weekend. Are you going to watch that?
No. I think the last time I actually saw a fight was Gable Steveson, because I pushed hard. I wanted everyone that would listen. I said, you got to hire Gable Steveson. You got to hire Gable Steveson. And that was the last fight I watched. Like, I don't like watching the UFC.
Versus Alicia Ellison, right? Is his name? Yeah.
Yeah.
Last one.
Just completely. I'm just completely disconnected from the product. I think the product is, mediocre at best. I think that, it's pretty much just to sell advertisements. There's more commercials than there are fights. I just don't like the current TKO product and how they're presenting the UFC. So that's my biggest problem. That's my biggest gripe. I haven't sat down and actually watched a full UFC event in forever. It's a complete disconnect from the product. And I hope the fight's good. Pretty much what I have to say about it.
So I guess you only just watch reels and highlights. Like for instance here, you would know the Islam versus Ian not by watching it, but by reading it from media. How would it go for you?
I think Islam gets it done. I think Islam will put on the pressure, and Ian Gary's gonna crack. I think Islam's ready for whatever weapons Ian Gary has in his arsenal. I think Islam's gonna be ready for it. So I think Islam, Islam by decision will probably be the result.
I see. I guess for me, I'm more so leaning towards Ian Gary. I think he's got that range and the takedown defense, but it's, I think, one of his tougher tests for sure. I'm not swung in either man.
Yeah. When you put on the pressure with Ian Gary, when we saw it in one of Ian Gary's losses, when you put the pressure on and you don't
stop cuts.
Yeah. I really think Islam has the answers for all of Ian Gary's weapons, but we'll see. Should be a good fight. I'll watch the highlights.
Yeah. Oh, that's how you know the news. You would know by the highlights, not by sitting in Paramount Plus or going to your local bar or whatever. Where did you watch it?
Hell no. But I know Ian Gary, and I've watched Ian Gary before, and of course I watch Islam, and I've always been an Islam fan, so I think he gets it done. So.
Anyways, it was great talking to you, David. I gotta get going. So, what's your final message to all David Potter fans out there? Sorry.
No problem, man. So check out MMA 2027. The trailer comes out. It's going to be released for PS4, PS5, Switch 2, mobile games, Steam, all the different systems, and the trailer is going to drop August 31st. So it's been a pleasure talking to you, my friend.
Yeah, likewise. Great talking to you too. And I hope the MVP thing goes pretty well because I'm tired of UFC monopoly and I wish you the best in that and in your game.
All right, thank you, brother. I appreciate
Have a good
you.
day, David. Yeah, likewise. Take care.
Take care.